Hey everyone, welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well. I hope you can all hear both I and Graham.
Hello.
So we actually have nothing planned. We just wanted to have a chat and see how things go. I hope everyone is very well tonight. I'll just say a quick hello to who's on the stream, and then we can start jumping into, the topic of the day, which is Prince Philip. No, or the disaster in Northern Ireland. So we have FSM is the dog. Great to see you, FSM. We have Glasgow Kiss. Great to see you, Glasgow. Hope you're well. We have Joe. Great to see you, Joe. William. Matt Greek. Great to see you. Trevor. Great to see you. Killer. Great to have you on. Dano. Great to see you. We have Katrina. Great to see you again, Katrina. William. Great to see you. Kendra. Hope you're well. We have Geraldine Doyle. Great to see you. Constance. Great to see you. Andy. Ministerian, a super chat from Ministerian. Thank you so much, Ministerian.
Needs more flags. Should I get a flag?
Have you got some flags?
I've got this. I have this handy just in case. I've got the plumbers around.
Traitor.
It's got a hole in the middle.
Were you trying to burn it?
Yeah. Biden will be pissed with Boris because of Northern Ireland, says Valero there. Do you think?
Valerio, thank you so much for that super chat. Yeah, Biden will be pissed with Boris. Yes, I think so. But Boris just doesn't want to get involved with Northern Ireland. I just think he wants to sit back and, eat ice. What was he doing? What was he doing while... Was it yesterday? He was in Cornwall eating ice creams or something.
Yes. He doesn't give an FUCK. He just doesn't care.
No, you can say it.
He's the good times prime minister. He just wants to have parties, which I respect. You know what I mean? But just have parties, then don't go into politics and don't ruin everything for everyone else.
I trust your flag is at half mast. Well, you can't see the full mast, so yeah, it is at half mast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Prince Philip, he had a good innings with 99. Yeah, it's one of those. It's like take no pleasure in somebody dying.
No.
And I think it's really interesting. Whenever someone famous freaking well dies, there's this tidal wave of people who don't care so much. They have to go on social media to tell everyone that they don't care. And you're like, okay, I don't care that you don't care, but I'm not going to put it on social media. That's how much I don't care about it.
FSM, thanks for that super chat for the flag shagging fund.
Flag shagging fund.
Yeah, like for example, I don't know if it's so much the case in the UK, but in Ireland there's the expression "we never speak ill of the dead." So even if I'm not saying this about Prince Philip, I'm just saying this in general. If somebody was an absolute bastard, we'd say at his funeral or her funeral for that matter, oh, was a wonderful person. They cared for their family and they gave to the poor, and when it was all a big pile of lies, and everybody knows it. But
there's a great song by the Australian comedy troupe, the Chaser, and it's called "Everyone's a Bastard Till They're Dead," and it's well worth checking out. Not now, because obviously you got to watch this stream because it's awesome. But later on, check out the Chaser.
Minnie, thanks for that super chat. Hi Max, hi Graham. Share. Oh, yay! Oh. Remember, guys, smash the like button. We want to get lots of people on tonight.
Yeah, please do. Joe Green saying good evening. Good evening, Joe.
Hey, Conservator, great to see you. We also have All Shorts. Do you know All Shorts? Cool show.
Yeah. All Shorts is on ubr.fm.
Cool.
With us.
That's great.
Yeah.
Brian, thanks for that super chat. I was hoping for Ronaldo. Graham was a close second.
My midfield attack. Oh, it's brilliant, man. I can score from the centre line.
Let me see.
Gene T saying, it's such a pity with Northern Ireland. Remember your three blokes in a pub visit you made there, Graham? Yeah, we went to Stormont. We went to the Assembly. We went to... I spoke to one of the guys who helped write the Good Friday Agreement, and he's a professor at Queen's University. Is it Queen's University? Yeah. It's so sad now because everyone we spoke to there, both in Northern Ireland and the Republic, both they were eyes wide open of what was going to happen. He said if there's going to be a border on the island of Ireland, then the Republicans are going to kick off. If there's a border down the Irish Sea, then the Loyalists are going to kick off. So the only way to not let this happen is to not leave the customs union and the single market, which we didn't have to do. That was never on the ballot.
No, not at all. But then the DUP and the ERG would be angry if that was the case. Hedgehog legs. Thank you so much for that swear box covered.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what that guy is thinking today when he's looking out his window and seeing his country in flames. The guy who wrote the Good Friday Agreement.
Well, when he was one of the authors, I mean, there was a lot of people who worked on it. I mean, probably hundreds of people worked on it, but it was always taken as an assumption that the UK and the Republic of Ireland would always always be part of the EU, and therefore there'd always be the free flow of goods from one country to the other. However, it's worth noting that when it comes to certain products like meat, there has been customs set up for a while now. Back when foot and mouth disease came about in the island of Great Britain, then any kind of beef products that were trying to be sent over to Northern Ireland, they were stopped and turned back. So this has happened before, but never to this extent. And this is crazy. You've got the UK, which has given up its place in the single market, which at the time consisted of over 500 million people and represented a GDP of $18 trillion. And they've reduced that to our GDP, which is 2.8 trillion. And the new UK single market is smaller than the actual UK. That's just bonkers.
I think Republicans probably in Northern Ireland will eventually build a statue to Boris Johnson. Well done in delivering a united Ireland. Learning to fly. Sorry, I just read out this super chat. Learning to fly. I feel sorry for the Northern Ireland people. They didn't want any of this, and they're stuck with the DUP. Yeah, Scotland didn't vote for Brexit. The people of Northern Ireland didn't vote for Brexit. The majority of people in England didn't vote for Brexit. When I say the majority of people, I'm thinking, what was the turnout for Brexit? It wasn't 100%.
No, it wasn't. But I mean, it was pretty high. That's one of the things they said. Oh, it was the biggest work of democracy ever in all the world, which is ridiculous because you have democratic elections in India, which is 1.3 billion people. I mean, but yeah, that was one of their excuses. It was an overwhelming mandate on the grounds that 17.4 million people voted for it. But that's ignoring the fact that 16 million people voted against it. So it was actually quite a close run thing. Mm-hmm. But apparently 52%, it's overwhelming.
A lot of people were asking us to talk about UBI the last time. So would you, we can come back to Northern Ireland in a bit, or we can come back to Brexit in a bit, but I think it's something that a lot of people would like to hear us talk about. So, okay, would you like to explain to people who aren't who are on the stream but are not familiar with it, what is UBI?
Okay, can I first address? There's a message here from Aki's Mad.
Oh yes,
that's purple Aki. It says, "Graham, hope you're a blue, mate. Fingers crossed." Hell yeah, I'm a blue. Right. So moving swiftly on. No, UBI, Universal Basic Income. This idea has been around for a very, very long time. In fact, in the United States of America, you might be a bit surprised to learn that the first president to moot this as a possibility was Richard Nixon. So this isn't a left-wing, right-wing thing. It's just, it makes economic sense to do this. And what it is quite simply, everyone gets a pension. Whatever your age, you get a pension from the government. You get the minimum you need to have a roof over your head, have some food in your belly, and keep warm. That's it. You don't have enough left over to buy a flash car or to buy a house or to go on holiday around the world, but you do have enough money just to live. And this would change everything, because at the moment, have a look at the people who have made it in life, the top actors, the top entrepreneurs, everyone in politics, pretty much, the people you see on TV presenting. Nearly all of them were born wealthy, like to a man and woman. It's kind of crazy, the low level of social mobility in the United Kingdom, and we're not the only country that have this problem. And one of the reasons for that is it's very difficult if you are on minimum wage to try something like starting your own business or becoming a film director or going into acting. Because if you fail in the first couple of years, you could be out on the street. That's it. You could lose everything. Whereas if you've got a bit of money behind you, you've got a rich uncle that you can call and say, hey, could you lend me £25,000? You quid's in. Because even if it fails, you're not going to be homeless. And that's what separates everyone at the moment. And it's why the people in charge are so goddamn mediocre. I don't think anyone can argue with that. And there's so much talent out there that's just going to waste because people are just having to do a job that they hate in order to keep a roof over their heads. And it makes no economic sense. You make money by making money go round.
Yeah.
That's why austerity was nonsense, because
it was taking money out of the economy. Yes.
Taking money out of the economy. So people weren't spending as much. And so the economy just jams up and takes a lot longer to get back onto its feet than it would have done had they not done austerity. They would have been better using the stimulus packages to fund people rather than companies that just bought back all their shares. So yeah, I think that also COVID, this whole thing, this would have been a great time to trial it.
But we didn't.
Wow! Glasgow Kiss!
Wow, Glasgow. Just before Glasgow Kiss, we have another super chat from Alexander, who said, good evening, gents. Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland very closely when coordinating tourism. Max, how has it changed since the new year? I think there was actually a report, there was an article that came out today where they were talking about a new railway network that's been opened between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. So there are, while there is this trouble going on and while Brexit has undermined a lot of cooperation north and south, it is still continuing. So there is, it's a lot of these small things moving along, I think, are pushing towards a united Ireland in a sense. Glasgow Kiss, as two of my favorite YouTubers fighting the good fight, have a beer, baby sham on me. Thank you so much for that.
Glasgow Kiss, thank you so much. That buys me, if we split that, that's 25 beers for me in Liverpool.
Or here in Italy, it's 50 glasses of little glasses of wine.
Little glasses.
It's about 50 cents a glass.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually quite good. It's not for cleaning engines or whatever.
I should have moved to Italy when I had the chance.
Anyway, back to UBI. So,
yes.
But so people say that if we give people loads of money, that will cause inflation, and then it will. No.
Well, they say the same thing about the national debt. They go, "Oh, national debt, it's going to lead to inflation." It never does. In fact, the deficit that they're running at the moment in Japan and have been since the 90s is something like 138%. They just borrow the rest. But a debt is. It's manageable so long as you can make the repayments, and we're a rich country. It's like saying, you shouldn't buy a house. Why not? Because you'll be in debt for 25 years. Yeah, but I get a house out of it.
Or you shouldn't start a business because it'll put you into debt. But but you'll be able to create something with that business.
But if you talk about the nuts and bolts of it, it would be you would get, say, £11,000 a year as an adult. You might get less as a child, and that would go to your parents' accounts. But you get £11,000 a year, say. And then any work that you do is taxed. So there's no tax-free threshold of £11,000. It's just, if you want to work and go forth and multiply, that's great. But if you earn more than 30 grand, because you'll end up paying, 35% tax, which is generally speaking what people pay. And that's not just income tax. That's your VAT that you pay on things and your council tax and all that kind of stuff. You'll end up paying your UBI back. And if you're earning way, way more than that, then you pay it back several times over. But it means that there's a baseline. It means that people aren't sacrificing their entire lives, living in terror, living in fear of being out on the streets. There are literally hundreds of thousands of women in this country who are in horrific, toxic relationships, and they're not leaving because of the fear of losing their children and being out in the streets. Now, if they knew that that wasn't going to be the case, they would leave and meet someone better and have a better life. And it's the same with,
sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, also, just when you bring up that point, I think it could actually have a huge societal change. Because if you imagine women who stay in those relationships, if they were free to leave, it could change society in a way that we couldn't, that's not related to money or finance. We have another super chat. Who's your favorite Beatle, Graham?
It's got to be Paul. Ringo's a Brexiteer. George was lovely, but he only wrote one song and album. And John Lennon, while being the greatest songwriter of the 20th century, he was a bit of a dick. So, yeah, it's going to have to be Paul.
Yeah, for me too. Well, it was between Paul and Ringo, but then when you said Ringo was a Brexiteer, I was like, what?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? He's from the Dingle. The rest of them were a bit posh. They're from posh Liverpool, but he was from the Dingle, it's where Bread was filmed, the TV show in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. Moving on, we have another super chat from Simon Carr. Hey, Max and Graham, what do you think with all the fighting in Northern Ireland, it will hasten the process of a United Ireland faster? Yeah, I think so. But we're heading towards a United Ireland.
I don't know, Max.
No?
I think that the reunification of Ireland was somewhat inevitable just because of demographics and changing attitudes. But there's been a huge squandered opportunity. When I went to Belfast, I first went there as a kid, just too young to remember. But I went there not long after the Good Friday Agreement was signed. And obviously, it's always a bit shocking when you go over and see a place that is so familiar in some respects and yet so alien in others. And the way they had the peace walls and these different areas. And it shocked me the way that people referred to marriages between Catholics and Protestants as mixed marriages. And I'm like, what? What? But going back there a couple of years ago, I was shocked. There were more peace walls up. The country seemed as split as ever. And I think that a child who had been starting school when I first went, or when I went, as an adult, they would have gone through their whole school career and come out the other end. And the situation in having certain areas of Belfast that you don't go if you're a particular religion, etc., it just hadn't been addressed. And I think the big problem is on their religion, based on their parents' religion, and this fucks me off. I mean, I'm a bit of a militant atheist. I'll have but I mean that's not what this is about. It's just I just figure that they should have done more with the education system, throwing everyone in together. Because if you've got a friend, if you're a Protestant and your best friend is Catholic, or the man you love is Catholic, or the woman you love is Catholic, you're going to not have the same attitude as if you have literally no friends from the other side of the divide.
I still think that the divides are limited. I think if you go outside, the city centres, if you go outside Belfast, things are not as divided as they are in Belfast. So but in regards to demographics, it's definitely heading in that direction. I think it's the political aspect of it. Many people think it's going to, within the next number of years, there'll be a United Ireland or at least a border poll. I don't think that's the case. I think it's going to be very gradual. Okay, let's move on. We have Crash Dummy has a question. Thank you so much for that super chat. I'm torn apart about UBI. It may unleash freedom and potential, but you need massive tax revenue for it. I have a diploma in German tax law. So how would you raise money for a UBI, Graham?
Exactly what Biden's just announced today. Tax the corporations. You've got corporations like Starbucks paying so little tax. It's abhorrent. It's disgusting. It should be criminalized. Yeah, I think it's not.
It was like the CEO of one of these Fortune 500 companies. The CEO was paying less tax than his cleaner.
Yeah. Yeah. And this has got to stop. So we have what Biden wants to do, which should have been done ages ago. And I bet he gets the backing of the EU to do this, and they run with it together. Wants all countries to sign up to a minimum corporation tax. That's it. Minimum corporation tax everywhere. So somewhere doesn't get an advantage. I mean, you can go higher than that if you want, but you can't go below it, which we had in the EU with VAT. The British pushed for this. You know, people going, oh, the British, they hate tax. Or the British pushed for VAT to be set at the minimum of 15% in the EU. And then they made a big fuss about the tampon tax. And it was like, but you were the people who... Oh! I hate the British, even though I'm British. But yeah, so it can be done. And the other thing that Biden was talking about was basically any country in which a corporation trades, that corporation has to pay tax in that country. So if they're taking money from me in this country, there should be some kind of tax that they have to pay to be here. Because at the moment, it's so unfair. If you're a little... you're a little coffee shop owner and you're up against Starbucks. Not only are you up against this global commodity, whatever, this corporation, they're paying less tax than you for the same shop, for the same size shop, same coffees, everything. You're having to pay your fair share of tax and they aren't. And so it's not a level playing field.
No. Another issue people raise with UBI is that, well, it's crazy giving money to rich people because they don't need it. Why should we give money to rich people? We should have it means tested. So we make sure that, I don't agree, but this is one of the points that's raised. So that we should have it means tested, so we give it to the poor people, not to the rich people.
But the mechanics of it are that at the moment, if you're rich, you get so much. Jesus. Think about it. If you're rich, right? You're rich and famous. You don't pay for shit. You don't pay for your own clothes. You don't pay for your own food. You don't pay to go to a nightclub. You don't pay to go to a party. If you go to the Oscars, you get a little Gucci bag for going to the Oscars worth £28,000 for going to a party. So when you're rich, you just get richer. There's a bit of a level there. And the idea that we have to sacrifice this thing that would be better for 99% of the population because there's 1% that definitely doesn't need it it sort of takes away the fact that we live in a society in which we have an NHS, which isn't much use if you're healthy. It's much use if you're sick. And there's rich people who use the NHS who probably could afford Bupa, but they use the NHS, and we pay for that out of our taxes, and we're happy to do that because despite these freeloaders, I love calling rich people freeloaders because they really are. Think about it as well for things like credit cards. One of my credit cards ran out in January, and I've not worked really this year because of COVID. And so I desperately needed to put the balance of that credit card on the other credit card. When I say ran out, the zero interest phase ran out. And I went on Martin's Money Saving Expert, tried a load of different cards, couldn't get it. Couldn't get the credit because I've been earning, my credit rating had gone down. Now, if I was rich, I would have got those 0% credit cards. They would have been falling over themselves to give them to me. But because I'm not rich, I now have to pay 50 quid a month extra because I couldn't afford to get a 0% credit card. So I'm paying 29% APR or something ridiculous. So I understand the argument, and it irks me that there will be people who will take the money and run, but we've seen that already with Brexit, with all these, not Brexit, sorry. Well, no, maybe with COVID and these companies with the PPE, but also the bounce back loan. Loads of companies have got the bounce back loan that they didn't need, but it's nice, isn't it? Get 50 grand, pretty much tax free.
Why is it okay to give it to companies but not to people? Ken, thank you so much for that super chat. Ken didn't write anything, but a big thank you to Ken. We also have a super chat from Era. Bring down the peace walls to normalise. What do you think about that in Northern Ireland, to bring down the peace? So instead of having
I don't think they should start with the peace walls. I think they should start with the schools. And this should be all over the UK. I can't believe in 2021 we're still segregating children into different schools depending on which religion the parents support. I mean, pray to. Sorry, I'm being really blasphemous here. I think it's sick. It creates this two-tier system within a two-tier system, because obviously something that I go on a lot about on my channel is private schools, the fact that the privately educated run everything. It seems that if you go on the Everyone's Invited website and read some really horrific stuff about women being sexually abused, over 50% of the accounts happened in private schools or someone who went to a private school who did it. And private school kids are only supposed to make 7% of the population, or people who go to private schools are supposed to make 7% of the population. Why are they making over 50% of the people who seem to be doing this stuff? I don't think they were good at all. And then you get into the state sector, and I don't understand how it's acceptable to have a sign outside of school basically saying no Catholics, no dogs. I mean, what? Eh? You can't come to this school. And look, I know they make exceptions. I'm one of them. I went to a Catholic infant school, even though I'm not a Catholic, but they let me in. But that's not the point. The point is that we shouldn't be segregating children at that age to, you go over that way, Johnny, you go over that way.
I know.
I just think it's wrong. I think it's immoral. And the thing is, the difference between Protestants and Catholics, I mean, what is it? Transubstantiation.
Pretty much. Well, we won't get into that tonight. Was there another super? Just double check. There wasn't another super chat. No, just back to UBI again. So one of the other responses to UBI is that it's communism. It's giving people things, or maybe not so much communism, but the idea that you're giving lazy people. If you give, and this is an argument I hear a lot over here in Italy, for example, when I bring up the issue of UBI, is well, there are a lot of people who don't work and don't want to work, and if you're giving them money, well, it's no incentive for them to ever work. How would you respond to that, Graham?
Well, what's the incentive of someone who's rich to work? All the people in government now pretty much are millionaires. They don't need to work. They don't need to do anything. They can just sit on a beach somewhere on the other side of the world, drinking strawberry daiquiris for the rest of the day. They don't need to be working.
But Jacob Rees-Mogg wants to be in politics to make the country better.
Well, whatever. He's worth over £100 million. The idea that if you get £11,000 a year, that just about pays to your bills and not much else, you're going to be infected by laziness. People aren't like that. I know everybody knows someone who can't be arsed and just sits on their ass playing PlayStation all day, but most people want to do something with their life. They're quite aware of the fact they're only here once, and they want to, get out there and do stuff and make a difference and show what they're good at.
And I think it comes back to the point you were making earlier, that in many cases, maybe some people are sitting playing PlayStation all day because they know that, well, if I try to do something, there's a risk I'll fail. And if I fail, then I'm living under a bridge or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm playing PlayStation safe, Nothing bad can happen when you're playing a PlayStation.
Unless you choke on a Dorito or something.
Yeah, choke on a Dorito, choke on a pretzel.
Like, was it George W. Bush? Anyway, Andy McAvoy, thank you so much for that super chat.
Andy, hello.
My two favorite commentators on one stream. This will save me save me a bit of a super chat. Super chat money. Cheers, fellas. Yeah, thank you so much for that, Andy. Yes, go ahead.
Max, I'm about to supposedly go live on my channel because I moved to 10 o'clock this week from 1 o'clock where I normally am. Well, not 1 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But I've moved to 10 this week because we got the kids home because it's Easter holiday. So to try to do a live cast in the day with kids running around was a bit of a nightmare. So I moved it. This is why I'm doing this crossover with you tonight. But I am going to have to go to my channel. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to press start streaming and see what happens. If I disappear, I'm very sorry. Start streaming, connecting. Yeah, it's connected. Yay. Okay, brilliant. I don't know if anyone's watching this, but I'm now going out on my channel, but it's just me. You can't see Max.
Okay.
I'm actually on Maximilian Robespierre's channel tonight. So if you want to head over to his channel, you can watch us discuss things and you can type things and you can send us super chats if you like. So just have a look in the description down there and it's got a link to Max's YouTube channel. And we'll take it from there. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye. Right, there you go.
That's great.
I'll press stop stream too soon. For some reason, when you press stop stream, it cuts off the last 5 seconds of what you said. So I keep on having ones where I go, and I'll see you next week, and then it just cuts off. And I'm like, oh, I missed my good buyout.
I was actually doing the same thing when I started streaming. I was like, "Good night, guys," and I pressed the end stream button, and it would cut off the last few moments. Don't know why it was. I think there's always a delay of 5 seconds for some reason. You know, in case maybe says somebody swears or something, it can be bleeped out. Grathok, thank you so much for that super chat. How's it going? It's going very well. I hope you're doing well tonight as well.
Globe Twigs written JRM is a hungry Victorian ghost. He is indeed. But yeah, what do you think? I mean, when it comes to the idea that people will be lazy because of UBI, I just don't think that's the case. I think people will be more industrious.
I think so too.
They'll actually do stuff that they enjoy. I also think that for shitty jobs that no one wants to do, you'll get more money. And I think also with automation going the way it is, I think it's inevitable.
We need something. Although I think it's actually a stop valve. It's a release valve against a revolution. Because if you imagine a situation where automation, it takes away hundreds of thousands of jobs. People are laid off. People have nothing to do. People have no money to buy food. What are they going to do? If they have nothing, what was it somebody said? The worst man is the man who has nothing to lose. The most dangerous man is the man who has nothing to lose. So you put people in a situation where they have nothing to lose, then they're going to start a revolution. They're going to march on parliament. They're going to make life very difficult for politicians. This is a way of stopping that in a way. It's about providing people with enough to survive. Now, I think for me personally, and you probably agree with me, UBI is not enough. We also have to make sure that people have not private healthcare, but public healthcare.
Oh yeah.
We need to make sure that schools are public
transport
are supported and financially supported. We need to make sure that we have infrastructure. We have all types of services available to the public. It's not just we give people £1,000 a month or €1,000 a month and then say, okay, wash our hands of the situation. We have to continue to make sure that we have other systems available. I just want to read another super chat we have from Learning to Fly. Once again, thank you so much. You are totally right, Graham. Money to live gives you freedom to be creative. Yes. I think maybe both of us. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for me personally, having the channel has given me a certain amount of freedom. UBI would be something like that. If I had a UBI, I could dedicate more time to the channel. I could do other. Unfortunately, I can't. I have other things to offline. I have to do as well. But I think it could create many opportunities for people. It would open many doors for people, and they would, as you said, there would be this security that if I fail, well, at least I can go back to my UBI.
Well, it's like when you're in school and you were forced to do certain subjects that you were crap at, and like it just made you feel rubbish about yourself. You're like, oh, I'm a dickhead. I can't get my head around this. And yet, if you allowed children to flourish at what they're good at, that is a whole different thing. That is what teaching is supposed to be all about. And I want that to continue as you get older. And you think about like people who have a job that they hate and they only do it for the money. And then any bit of spare time they have, it's kind of like they just want to relax. And I get that because they want to just chill out at the whole, what they're doing. I just think that if they had a job that they loved, they'll probably work at it harder. I know I do. All the stuff I enjoy doing, I'm got way more gusto than doing something completely boring, like, I don't know, doing the dishes. But isn't that mad, Max? I know you've got Mad Max. Isn't that Mad Max? That when you do your own dishes, that's not a job. But when you do your neighbor's dishes, that's a job. If you look after your own children for the night, that's not a job. But if you look after the neighbor's children for the night, that's a job. Here's some money. Well done. Pay as you earn, whatever.
It's our society.
You're doing the same thing. So UBI, again, here's your money for being a parent. Look after your kids. Spend time with them. Make sure they don't grow up to be some kind of, I don't know, sociopath with no empathy. Or, as it's also known, a conservative politician.
But that's true. Many parents have to decide: do I work or do I spend time with my children? If I work in order to provide for my family, it means I need to cut into time that maybe my children would prefer me to spend time with them, and it's not available. So, and it's no fault of the parent. I'm just saying that many parents would like to spend more time with their children. They can't because of for economic reasons. And if we could actually give them that, perhaps we could, develop better citizens for the future. So many things to talk about on this particular topic.
The country of Bhutan fascinates me because it's one of the only countries in the world, I think the only country in the world, that has a happiness index. It actually cares and it gauges, and it has like its own little league table, I guess, of its country's happiness, of the happiness of its citizens. And that should be a top priority, but it's not. What's the priority of this government? It seems to be to piss off everyone in the world who isn't British, to piss off half the population that is British, to build walls rather than bridges, to reignite old sectarian troubles that we thought were over 23 years ago. They're back. Yay. And I just don't, they're not out there for your happiness or my happiness or anyone watching this is happiness.
Well, happiness is having a flag behind you.
Yes.
Akbar Ali, thank you so much for that super chat. How are the Brexit riots coming along in Ireland? They're coming on very well. It's very, these are the sunlit uplands that we heard all about. Fire in the sky. That is the sunlit upland. A shiny new future for Northern Ireland. Grathok again, thank you so much for that super chat. Many artists are stone or broke. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yes. So many of my friends have no money, Max. I mean, this is why I can't get any financial support for doing up the island that I've got in Panama to like turn it into an eco retreat. Because I'm like, to me mates, should we do this? And they're like, yeah, it sounds great. Look, I'll draw a picture. And the picture looks amazing. And I'm like, have you got any money? And like, no. We're all in our 40s now, so it's a lot less funny than it was when we were in our 20s.
It's more realistic. Ministerian, thank you so much for that super chat. He says, UBI would let people like me to try and change careers without worrying about losing my flat. UBI now. Yes. So many people are in a type of slavery, in a type of prison, either a mental prison or an economic prison. You want to change flat, you can't because you're afraid that, if I move to another place, I may, maybe I don't have the money to move, or if I move, I may lose my job, or I want to change job, but I can't move to that city. So there are many constraints that force us to stay where we are. And I think, as Graham had said earlier about, women who are in abusive relationships are unable to leave because...
And some men as well.
And men as well. Anyone who's in an abusive relationship is stuck there because they're afraid, look, I can't go. I have to stay here. Yeah. Here is my financial stability.
But think about mortgages as well. So if you miss a payment in your mortgage, the bank could take your house off you, even if you've paid 98% of your bloody mortgage off for the last 24 years and you missed the last payment. Technically speaking, I know people get insurance and stuff, but technically speaking, the bank can say, right, that's it, we're having the house. And the fear of missing that payment drives a lot of people to not object, to not follow their dreams, and to not protest, which is the thing why the government this government in particular probably won't ever go for UBI, because it'll give people the opportunity to stand up and say, hey, we want to have our voices heard.
Glasgow Kids, thank you so much for another super chat. And he talks here about protests. So he says, nothing will happen regarding marches or protests until after the COVID emergency. The government know this and have taken away protesters' rights in anticipation. A license to violent action against protesters. I'm really pissed off when I read about how Tory MPs who will stand up in Parliament and say, we are here, we need to end this lockdown because we care about people's freedoms. And then you actually look at their voting record and they voted to stop people from protesting.
Well, we had...
Heartman Steve Baker, for example.
Yeah, Lawrence Loser Fox, Lawrence Fox, the terrible actor who went to a private school, of course, and he's a shit actor and he's shit a singer. The only reason why you've heard of him is because he comes from a family of millionaires. That's it. He's got literally no talent, but he's standing to be mayor of London, and he recently said that the fact that the government was considering having these little COVID passports. I've got 3 of them, actually, Max. There you go. Got 3 of them. These are my yellow fever certificates from when I've been traveling, and I need them, or at least one of them, to show that I've actually been vaccinated for yellow fever before I can go into a country. So having to get a vaccine passport to go to the pub, it's not a huge issue for me. I haven't been vaccinated. I'll probably won't be vaccinated for a while. And yet I know that if the government did this sensibly and said, if you have been vaccinated, you can go in the pub, that's no problem. But if you haven't, stay outside, which is what we did last summer. So I don't really have a problem with it. Anyway, Lawrence Fox today or yesterday, he tweeted that the fact that the government was considering this was like, what's his name? Mengele, the
German
the
doctor.
German angel of death. And David Baddiel pulled him up on this and said, that guy did live vivisections on people. He stitched twins together. Oh my God, what is wrong with you? And it's this thing of like, if I say that a Nazi, someone who's saying Nazi things is a Nazi, I'm like, oh no, people say, oh, it's Godwin's law, isn't it? Oh, and I'm like, no, I'm saying, and there was something I put the other day where I put, the people who voted for Brexit probably would have voted for the Nazis. I didn't say they were Nazis. I didn't say they were responsible for the concentration camps or anything like that, or the invasion of Poland. I'm saying they would have fallen for the same tricks because there's so much similarity between the way that the Nazis got to power and the way that Brexit came to be.
Like, also the vast majority of people in Germany at the time were not Nazis, but they supported the Nazis.
Yeah.
They weren't, I'm a Nazi. It's just we're going to vote for these people because they claim to make the country better again. Chris Ryan, thank you so much for that super chat. There's a reason that the average person is not taught about entrepreneurship and how money works in schools. Uneducated people are easier to control. I agree 100%.
But look at our entrepreneurs. Name an entrepreneur. Quick, go.
Dyson.
Privately educated. Name another one.
Lord Sugar.
Oh, no, he wasn't. Sorry, you beat me. Damn.
No, that was a guess.
Oh, no, Richard Branson was. Branson. Tim Martin, fat Wurzel Gummidge, he was actually privately educated. He came from money. And so he had money. Look, I'll give an example. So me and a friend of mine who's an actor, we were setting up a video streaming thing for him to teach acting. And we took out a small loan from the startup loan company last year. A bit daft now because obviously we've not been able to do anything because of COVID. But we're hoping to get going next month. But the thing is, that startup loan, you have to start paying it back straight away. And it's 6% APR. So it's not that much better than taking out a personal loan from the bank, for instance. And also, it's a personal freaking loan. It's not against the company. It's not against the limited company. So if you can't pay it back, you just wind the company up and walk off into the sunset. No, it's on you. So if we don't pay that money back that we've both borrowed, then we'll get the bailiffs coming around to our homes because we're not rich enough to afford the higher end of it. I got this when I was traveling. If I was rich and I had £3,000 coming into my bank account and out my bank account every month, I'd get free cash withdrawals from ATMs around the world. But because I'm not rich, I had to pay for it. And again, we have fines. This drives me mad. Fines are so regressive. If you are working minimum wage and you get a parking fine of £30, that could be half your wages for the day.
Yeah.
If you are a multimillionaire, if you're Jacob Rees-Mogg, you can park your Bugatti on the pavement. Get that. It's nothing to you. It's chewing gum. And that's not fair. In Finland, brilliant Finland, great education system, beautiful country, the most forests in the whole, the most lakes in the whole of Europe. They have a system where if you get a speeding fine, it's based on your income. So fines of over €100,000 have been given out because some millionaires driving their Lamborghini down the road, they get clocked, and that's it. 100,000, because they need to make an impact. They need to make an impact. So these people don't do it. But at the moment, in this country, there's one rule for the rich and another for the rest of us. And I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. And I don't think I'm the only one.
Well, hopefully things will start to change soon. At least when the Tories are out, if the Tories are ever out. Johan, thank you so much for that super chat. Johan, I think is from Sweden, says, anyone know if the UK will step in to support the UK Caribbean inlands when the EU will not? I'm not familiar with that. Do you know what Johan is talking about here?
Step in to support the UK Caribbean islands when the EU will not. I guess this is maybe to do. Johan, you're gonna have to give us some more to go on. Are you talking about the volcanic eruption in St. Vincent today? Because that was St. Vincent's an independent country, whereas Montserrat, which is just the north of St. Vincent, Montserrat, it was a British territory. So when the volcano erupted there, it was up to the British government to evacuate everyone on the island. But yeah, I don't think that the UK is going to step into support anywhere, really.
not even Gibraltar or
yeah, not Gibraltar, not Northern Ireland, not the West Indies, not anywhere. I mean, we've cut overseas aid from 0.7% of our GDP to 0.5%, and it's a percentage. So if we earn less, if our GDP goes down, we give less in overseas aid. But what this has done is there's a load of programs that have been set up around the world through the British embassies, British High Commissions, the British Council, to do good around the world. And a lot of these programs have had to be shut down. And one of them was lawyers for Syrian refugees. So the refugees in the refugee camp could apply for asylum status in Britain, for instance. So now that door's been closed. So if you're a Syrian refugee sitting in a Syrian refugee camp, the only way to get to Britain now to claim asylum is to literally come to Britain in a dodgy boat and then have dickhead Farage bellow at you through a foghorn. Not that he needs one. And yeah, you get here, and then Priti Patel wants to, if you're a child, she wants to put you on a rock in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
I don't know what to say.
She wants children fleeing war to be punished worse than paedophiles who kill children. Because they don't get sent off to St. Helena. They get to stay in a prison in the UK. People come and visit them and everything. And Priti Patel, she's the daughter of immigrants, for Christ's sake. I mean, talk about kicking the ladder away.
Anyway, we have a super chat from Bogdan who says, Graham, how bad is Kieran's situation after Brexit?
I don't know. I've not spoken to Kieran this year so far. But what I'm trying to set up a thing. I've got one of my friends who watches the show called Sonny. He lives over in Singapore, and he's sorting me out with the equipment I need to plug my phone into my laptop. And yes, you would think that would be a really, really easy thing to do.
USB cable? No.
Oh, come on. Like, it's going to be that easy. No, you need like a little mixing desk, and you need like an in and an out and a... But yeah, so he sorted me out with that. And once I get that going, I'm going to be using stereo a lot on my chat. So viewers will be able to get me on stereo. And so it'll be a halfway house between reading the comments, which is difficult to keep up with them all. We love you, but it's difficult to keep up.
We're 620 viewers, wow.
Actually having a proper phone in, because you can see who's calling you and you don't have to give out your phone number.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So that's what I'm hoping. So once you get that done, I'm hoping to speak to Kieran next week and get him on, because he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. And everything he said has come true.
Just about things coming true, I remember Jacob Rees-Mogg said about Northern Ireland where, well, they could just put an electronic border on the island of Ireland and that would resolve all the problems. So I was thinking, why isn't there somebody asking Jacob Rees-Mogg now to install an electronic border on the Irish Sea to fix this problem that the unionists are so worried about.
Electronic, but like, what do they think technology is? Do they think there's a lorry? Imagine a lorry with a 40-foot container on it, and it's got all this different stuff in it. It's got toys in it. It's got some food. It's got some, I don't know, it's got some disposable nappies in it, and it's going through 30 miles an hour, and it just scans it and goes. And what the electronic scan tells it is what products are made, where they're made, how they're made, if they're made with the environmental protections in place, if they're made with working protections in place. I mean, what do they? Are they...
But Jacob Rees-Mogg, somebody who comes from the 1800s, I don't know how.
I can't even plug my phone into my freaking laptop. I can't plug this camera here directly into my laptop through the HDMI cable. Because HDMI on your laptop is out only. Why? Because the big Hollywood studios thought that if they did it where you could just plug in a camera to a laptop, then people would pirate their movies. So to stop that, you have to buy a dongle, which costs £100, and you just plug it into your USB instead.
Okay, another super chat. We have Darren. Thank you so much, Darren. Do you think Sinn Féin will win the next Irish elections if they can appeal to be against the status quo, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael? So what happened recently was there was a general election. Was it 2 years ago? I think it was about 2 years ago. And Sinn Féin were, if they had fielded candidates in every constituency, they would have won a majority.
Yeah,
they didn't because
really
they didn't.
well.
Yeah, they did really, really well, but they didn't expect to do so well, so they didn't field enough candidates. I don't know the situation now whether they would actually win. They're more and more popular all the time, and I think it's Fianna Fáil is really going down the toilet. So there is a possibility of perhaps a coalition. I don't know if Sinn Féin would win enough seats to win an outright majority, but I think they could go into coalition with somebody and they could form a government, certainly. But I'm not as up to date on Irish things as I should be. But I'm hoping to do a live stream maybe sometime soon with an Irish guy. We can talk about that as well. Just make sure I don't miss any more super chats.
But it's worth noting. Should we start talking about Ireland a bit?
No. Sure. I just read just before we get to that. Just read some more super chats and then we can because a lot of them have come in. Alex, thanks so much for that. Good evening, Graham. First time listener to Max. Apologies for being late. You're forgiven.
Apology accepted, Alex. Thank you for the super chat.
Johan, thank you so much for that super chat. The EU has given them money from the structural fund. Will the UK support their own?
No. It's a quick answer for that, Johan. The UK at the moment is the people in charge are just robber barons. That they're out there to strip the UK of all of its assets, including its reputation, and they're going to just get the hell out of Dodge at the end of all this. They're all going to leave. They're going to fill up. There was a guy in the 1960s called Ernest Marples, and he's the guy who ripped up all the railways. People blame it on Beeching, but he was brought in from the private sector. The actual minister who did it was a guy called Ernest Marples, and he did it because he was the co-owner of Britain's biggest motorway building company, Marples Ridgeway Construction. The clue is in the name. This guy was also the Secretary of State for Transport in the UK in the 60s. So he ripped up all the competition, which was the railways. And his last thing that he did in the UK, he stuffed used fivers in 2 suitcases and fled the country owing the taxman over £1 million. And this is what they're going to do. This is what they're going to do. They're going to flee the country, and someone is going to have to hunt them down. Max. Hashtag just saying. Do you know anyone who's got a really good geographical grasp of the world and has friends in lots and lots of different countries?
I wonder. I'm quite good at sharpening things, so we can combine our forces.
Excellent.
Here's another super chat from Alexander. It's here's another one for some drink. Current UK government has less soul than a DC Comics supervillain gallery. Also, Graham FB Facebook, I think it's Facebook messaged you as need info. Okay, right, to Facebook and beyond. So while we wait for some more super chats coming in, you want to talk about Ireland? Graham?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I think that's a good question about Sinn Féin, because Sinn Féin and the Alliance Party are all over Ireland. Like, the Alliance Party is in the Republic of Ireland, but it's also in Northern Ireland. Same with Sinn Féin. We're seeing a lot of people move towards the Alliance Party in Ireland. And don't forget, Sinn Féin and the Alliance Party both supported the Good Friday Agreement. The DUP didn't. The DUP has hated the Good Friday Agreement since the start of all this. And they saw Brexit, quite rightly, as a way to restart the Troubles, because I can't get in the heads of these people, but basically they think that gives them power and stuff, and it means that I think they felt that after the Good Friday Agreement, that the relationship between Great Britain and Northern Ireland was getting, it was less of a concern. Northern Ireland wasn't on the news every night of something happening in Northern Ireland. And when they shut down Stormont over there, no one really cared over here. It wasn't like a big issue. We weren't getting like TV updates like Stormont is now closed for the 200th day. None of that. So I think they were fearing irrelevance, and they thought, well, how do we get ourselves on the news again so that British people care about us? I mean, it's kind of pathetic, really. And that's why they went for the hardest possible Brexit. They supported a Brexit that necessitated a border either on the island of Ireland or in the Irish Sea.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think so. I think they wanted to destroy the Good Friday Agreement in order to, in my eyes, I think it was the last throw of the dice for them. They said, okay, we're heading towards a united Ireland. We need to throw something in front of the train to stop it.
Heading towards oblivion.
Yeah. But the ironic thing is that these people could still have a career after this. If there was a united Ireland, they could join one of the main parties. Some of their ideology is not that different. If you take away the Unionist part, a lot of them are conservatives with a small c, and they would find a home in some political parties in Ireland. Because I think for a lot of these politicians, these older politicians, it's just for the money they're really doing it.
And the power.
Yeah.
I think what is it? Power is addictive. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Anyway, we have another super chat. Scott's Dog says, Foghorn Farage and Priti Patel treat human beings like they're cattle. The old and the young, overboard they will overboard they will bung, bathwater and baby and rattle. Yes. Thank you so much for that super chat.
Priti Patel is awful. I mean, it's hard to decide on which of these Tories who are in charge at the moment I hate the most. But she's really up there. She makes my skin crawl. She really does, Max. There's just that whole shtick she does of having this really posh voice but dropping her G's. Oh, it goes through me. It's like fingernails going down a blackboard. I'm like, oh no. Yeah.
For me, it feels like she's trying to play to some crowd. She knows. I don't know. I don't want to sound racist when I say this. So, when you say, I don't want to sound racist.
I'm not a racist, but go on, Max.
It's like she wants to be a white Tory. That's the impression I get. So she has to throw red meat to the knuckle draggers, to the racists. So she has to win their support in this way.
Yeah.
So she can't say, I'm going to be a good Home Secretary by being a good Home Secretary. I have to show myself, I have to join the club in a way. I have to join the club of racists. So in order to do that, I have to be more racist than the racists. I don't know,
I think you're right. I think it's why Theresa May and Margaret Thatcher were no good for feminism, really, because they weren't trying to be women doing a good job. They were trying to be men. They were trying to ape the men who surrounded them and be more masculine and more of an alpha male than the males around them. and that's why they were so horrible, both of them.
I think-
And isn't it awful now that Boris Johnson's so bad that he makes Theresa May look good, and Theresa May was so bad she made David Cameron look good. Jesus.
And Cameron was so bad that he made John Major look good. Although John Major wasn't. Well, I don't know what your opinion of John. So it's so far in the past. Maybe
No, I've got a
soft spot.
I wouldn't say I call it a soft spot. I like John Major. He didn't go to private school, so that's a good mark for me. But also, he was instrumental in the Good Friday Agreement. I mean, and also the end of apartheid in South Africa, the freeing of Nelson Mandela. Those meetings took place between the ANC and PW Botha and all that lot over in the UK. That they happened in the UK. It was facilitated secretly by the Tory government at the time under John Major. So he did some things really bad, but he did some things all right. And if the Tories were like they used to be, conservative with a small c, I think people would be less upset about them. But the Tories know that that's not a way to win elections, because Thatcher won elections, Boris Johnson won an election, won a landslide, because they know that controversy, that's how you do it. Make sure you're in the papers every day for something.
Do you think Boris Johnson has an ideology? Like if you sat down with him and he said, "This is what I think," because like from the outside, I don't think he has an ideology. He's
a man that just wants to fuck everything. That's his ideology. As long as he's having a good time, then everyone else can just go to hell. I don't know. He famously wrote a piece on why we should stay in the EU, and a piece saying why we should leave. And
that's what I mean. He doesn't have an ideology. Yeah.
No, I don't think he does. I think Thatcher did. Thatcher had a definite ideology. She saw anyone who was lazy and poor as a waster. If you were lazy and rich, that wasn't a problem. And it's still not a problem to a lot of people. They don't care when they see pictures of rich, famous people sunning themselves on a beach for 6 months a year. But if they saw someone who didn't have any money on a beach, they'd be like, "Oh, what are you doing on the beach? Stop that. You should be, I don't know, working down a mine and dying young as a result."
We have another super chat from Glasgow Kiss. Glasgow Kiss, thank you so much tonight. DUP know the end.
Amazing.
Yeah. DUP know the end is nigh. They just want to take everyone down in flames.
Bang on.
Yeah.
Absolute bang on.
They don't care. They don't care about the union. They don't care about the people of Northern.
But I think that the oncoming conflict in Northern Ireland, which I don't think that can be stopped now. I hope I'm wrong. I really, really hope I'm wrong. But if it spills over, if Republicans start fighting back, then it is going to spiral into violence, and then it's going to be. So maybe there was going to be a united Ireland in 10 years' time, just because of demographics and the way things were going. Because of Brexit, it might actually take longer for there to be a united Ireland, because people will become more entrenched in their positions. Whereas maybe a few years ago, people who were unionists weren't that attached to it anymore. If someone you know is killed, you become a lot more intent on winning. And the only way they're going to win is by, I don't know, killing more people on the other side. What can you do, Max? You have a border on the island of Ireland, or you can have a border in the Irish Sea. That's it.
Mr. Peter says, "Chuck our law," which is "Our day will come" in Irish, which is shouted by.
Did you do a wee Scots dog who sent a little?
Yes, I think so.
You did that one.
Well, there's so many popping in at the same time. Wow, I'm trying to keep up with them.
It's above Glasgow Kiss.
Yes, it did. Yes, it's a little poem. Okay. Yes,
little poem. We got another poem.
Jim, thank you so much for that super chat. There once was a Graham and Max who took on some corrupt Tory hacks with a UBI plan and a laxative plan. Rees-Mogg went and did in his slacks.
Jim, we should be giving you a tenner for that. That was brilliant. There's a guy in Liverpool called Chestnut Brown. He goes up and down Lark Lane at the weekends, and he writes poetry for people.
That's beautiful.
He was the guy who wrote this line that always stayed with me. There's been a few things that people have said to me over the years that have really stayed with me. And he wrote this poem for me, and I just split up with my girlfriend at the time. But what he wrote was brilliant. He wrote, "Look at the donut, not the hole." And if you think about it, we do spend so much time and waste so much energy in our lives fretting about the hole in a donut and ignore the fact there's a freaking donut there. It's like, oh, but there's a hole in it. It's like, no, don't worry about that. You've got a donut. Look, it's a... But yeah, I thought that was really, when I read it first, I didn't think anything of it. And then years later, it came back to me. Like, that is actually brilliant, because this is what so many people do.
Yeah, I remember it was an aspect of Buddhist philosophy where they say that you should... Our problem in our society is that we have a glass full of water, and what we try to do is we try to put in more and more water into the glass, and what we should do instead is empty the glass and only put in the water that we need. And unfortunately, because we say, oh, I want to have the new car, I want to have the big house, I want to have this, and you continually try to put more and more things into your life, and your life becomes saturated with things that you want. And you can have, and this, one of the problems that the rich have is the rich, have everything, and they continually want more and more. And
yeah, because they're obsessing over what they haven't got.
Exactly.
They're obsessing over the whole instead of looking at what they've got. And that's something that has always stayed at me. And I've always tried to appreciate what I've got and what I've achieved and take pride in that, rather than this whole flag shagging nonsense where you take pride in something that someone else did. Take pride in something that someone else did who's dead. And you're like, I just find it sad. And I find it sad when there's a beautiful wife, beautiful, gorgeous husband, whatever, and they're not happy because they're not looking at that. They're looking at the fact that the neighbor's wife's better looking, or, some other kids are better behaved, or they get better grades in school or whatever, and they just don't appreciate what they've got. I think that's a huge problem in society. That I don't know what the answer is to that, but I think capitalism has something to blame when it's like, oh, look at this stuff, look at this stuff. Or
maybe
this
something
is so good.
But maybe your experience could teach a lot of people about. I remember you saying that when you went to, maybe it was in India or maybe in Pakistan, where you find people who have literally nothing, but they're satisfied. They're happy with what they have.
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. I'd say that they're generous with what they've got, which is surprising. But this goes back. I mean, there's a legend of Zeus and Apollo coming down to Earth and asking for shelter, and they disguise themselves as beggars, and they ask for shelter, and all the rich people tell them to go away. And then finally they find this old couple, and they've only got like a goose. That's all they've got in the world. And they slaughter the goose and cook it. Might be a duck. I don't know. It's some kind of bird. And they kill it and cook it for these visitors, for these strangers. And the gods are impressed. So I don't think this is a new thing. But whenever I went anywhere where countries... First of all, I think a big thing with how... linked with happiness, certainly, is this idea of the gap between rich and poor being smaller. So if we're all a little bit poorer, then people are happier overall than if there's a few people who are poor and there's some people who are like mega rich. That gap between rich and poor, the bigger that gets, the more miserable people get. And that's got to do with what we're talking about, with people going, they can see what their neighbors have. They can see on TV what other people have. They're out of work and they're watching some fucking TV show where people are going, oh, well, we've only got £650,000 to spend on this place. So, I don't think it's for us. And it's like, oh my God, that's just taunting people. Daytime TV, folks, daytime TV.
It's a type of reverse poverty porn in a way.
Yeah, but it's just, isn't it just twisting the screws, isn't it? But yeah, I know I found all over Africa and Central Asia and places where people didn't have very much, they were a lot more willing to share than people necessarily are in this country, because possibly of capitalism, because of just the way things have just spanned out. But I always feel like if you ask someone in Britain, "Oh, can I have a crisp?" the first instinct is to look how many crisps they got left. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, "Oh, come on then." Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know if that's exclusively British either. There could be a lot of countries in Europe, America. I don't think it's that way in New Zealand, though.
No.
I love New Zealand.
The best place in the world. Okay, we have another super chat from Bogdan. Thank you so much for that. Electronic border would do nothing. What do people think technology is? Magic. Graham, will Three Blokes be back? What about Jason's political ambitions? One super chat, many questions.
Political ambitions, but no, I don't think Three Blokes will be back in the way that it was, because not least because of COVID, we can't go to the pub. But Adam's now living in Denmark, and Jason's doing his own thing. Kieran, like I say, he should be on the show next week on Brexit Reality, so watch out for us. Although, big announcement, I'm changing the format a bit next week, Max. What do you think of this? So I'm thinking of doing Brexit Reality on Mondays, right? On Tuesdays, Climate Reality, because I feel like I'm neglecting the environment, and there's a lot that I want to say about it.
Good.
And I don't want to say to my grandkids, not that I'm going to have any grandkids, but if I did.
I did nothing.
Yeah, well, what did you do about the climate emergency? I go, oh, well, I made these YouTube shows about Brexit, and they're like, what's Brexit? What's wrong with you? So then I was thinking of like having Wednesdays doing pop culture reality. So it's just me complaining about Star Wars Episode 1. It's been 22 years and I'm still not over it. And then Thursdays, Hughes the World, talking about a different country each week. Next week is going to be Barbados. Yes. That means the bearded ones. And then on Friday, I'll do another Brexit reality. How does that sound? That
sounds really good.
Packed week. I don't want to get too samey. Do you know what I mean?
No, but I don't know how you managed to get like all the material ready for that. And
I don't. I just turn up and people talk to me, and I just like I just read out what they say.
The theme today is Barbados.
Oh no, I have to do a bit of research for the Hughes the World shows, because it's usually dates and things like that. They just trip you up. So I have like a crib sheet on the screen just to go 1548, and I can sort of look at it and look back. Very smooth, Graham. Very smooth.
Just on Three Blokes in a Pub, would you consider starting a new Three Blokes in the Pub? Are there people in your town that you could pull together?
Well, I've got Paul Somerville, who's Geordie lad, who was on a couple of episodes of Pubcast. He's still about. He lives in Chesterley Street, which is just up the road from me in Durham at the moment. But also Ben Chambers, the most awesome person ever, who does the 60 Million Rising radio show every Monday, which is well worth checking out. It's like what me and Max do, but it's got music. Which makes it way better. But we can't be asked paying for the licensing for all that kind of shit, so we don't. Yeah, he's moving up to the northeast apparently. So yeah, it can be us three in the pub.
Cool. I think
bit
people
sexist,
really like
but
that.
Whatever.
Well, you could also have a lady in the pub as well, no?
Yeah. Well, what I've been doing recently this year is I set up these Road to Rejoin meetings with Grassroots for Europe. Every Wednesday night at 7:30, we have these Zoom meetings, and anyone's invited, and we have like hundreds of people turn up sometimes, and we just talk about the movement to rejoin the EU and Brexit and what groups are doing around the country. And about once a month, we have an Ask Me Anything, and so far we've had Gina Miller and Will Hutton. We had Mike Galsworthy and Peter Jukes. Peter Jukes is the editor of Bylines. So you've seen Bylines TV or any of the Byline stuff. That's all him. He used to be a TV writer. He used to write for TV. He's an interesting guy. We also had Femi Olawale and Naomi Smith. And Naomi Smith is the head of Best for Britain, who, when we were fighting against Brexit, they were the ones who came up with all the polling data that shows that people didn't want Brexit. that if we went into a general election, the Tories would win an 80-seat majority. And they gave this data to the Lib Dems and to Labour, and Labour just went. So, and then I am on the 21st of this month, Max.
Yes.
I believe that we're having Maximilian Robespierre and Phil Morehouse from A Different Bias will be answering your questions.
Maybe people have heard of Phil. I'm not sure if people are familiar with.
You've heard of Phil. Come on. If you watch your
joking.
shows, you watch mine. But yeah, you guys have agreed to appear on a show on the 21st.
So remember to check that out, guys.
Not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. It should be good.
Yeah.
It should be good. They've been great so far. Peter Jukes and Mike Galsworthy was fantastic because they were just talking about media and the way it's so stitched up in this country. You know, like 63% of British media is owned by 3 billionaires and none of them live in this country.
But they're very good at convincing poor people that their biggest enemy is another poor person coming across the sea in a rubber dinghy. Phil Spicer has a super chat for us. The origins of the word Tory is thought to come from the old Irish word toire, which means pursued man or highwayman, robbers. Tories know that the ancient Irish have got that right. Yes,
absolutely, Phil.
Torags.
Absolutely, 100%.
Very
Brilliant.
good, Phil. Thanks so much for that. We have another one from Darren. How long do you think that Boris will remain in power, considering that Labour are like under Starmer? I see him being until 2030. We need a Wilson or Clem figure.
I feel like there's so many open goals that Starmer is missing. And it's very frustrating knowing that over 60% of Labour members want us to rejoin the EU. And he's just ignoring us. So, and I know that the Corbynites want to make out like anyone who supports Starmer is just in the same kind of cult of like going, oh, you're amazing, you can do nothing wrong. I don't think they can be further from the truth. I think most people who have voted for Starmer are a bit pissed off with his lack of action and his lack of criticism of the government over COVID and over Brexit. And I heard that he was regarded, when he was a lawyer, he was regarded as a judge's lawyer, not a jury's lawyer. So he was someone who could win over the judge because he knew all the technical stuff, but he couldn't necessarily win over a jury by explaining complex things in a simple, easy to digest way.
I'm convinced that he needs to drop a few F-bombs on, maybe not in the House of Commons, but maybe on TV in an interview or something like, for fuck's sake, Boris, or something like that. Just to connect with people, so people will listen. Because people, not half the population, but a considerable amount of people in the UK don't even know who he is.
I know. And people go, oh, but he's really good at Prime Minister's questions. And I'm like, who the fuck watches Prime Minister's questions? It's on a lunchtime on a fucking Wednesday. Like, who? No one. That's who. I have a degree in politics and I don't freaking watch it. No, you get into the newspapers by doing stuff, saying stuff. If it's controversial, even better. Just no publicity is bad publicity, especially when the next election's not for another 4 years. Just go for it.
What about Hartlepool? What do you think is going to happen there?
Oh, the Tories are going to demolish them. Tories are going to win. I'm only a few miles up the road from Hartlepool. The monkey hangers, they famously hung a monkey thinking it was a French spy about 200 years ago. So we call them the monkey hangers. But yeah, Hartlepool is Brexit central. People love Brexit. Obviously, because politics, people say personalities shouldn't matter in politics. And in a perfect world, do you know what? You're right. They shouldn't.
Should be policies, but
they do. And that's the problem. And we need someone charismatic and bold on the left, and we don't really have them.
Who would you prefer to see instead of Keir Starmer? Who do you think could actually become? Who would be charismatic? Andy Burnham.
Andy Burnham. I voted for Andy Burnham back in 2015 to be leader of the Labour Party. And if people hadn't put Jeremy Corbyn in as a joke, then Honestly, reality would be so different. There's a sliding doors moment, I swear.
Is there still a chance for him?
For Andy Burnham?
Hmm.
I don't know. He's going for mayor of Manchester again, which he'll probably get this next month, actually, the elections. And I don't know. I don't think it's something that he'll probably go for, because at the moment it seems like a bit of a poison chalice. But I feel like Labour need. It's easy to say up from the outside, sitting on the couch eating popcorn, going, "What the team need to do is," but I think they do need to have someone who's a bit of a firebrand, making waves. But look, Max, how many subscribers have you got? 60,000?
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, you've got more subscribers than the Labour YouTube channel. How does that happen? How does that work? Labour are a multi-million-pound organisation. They're the biggest British political party in terms of membership and in terms of funding, essentially, because they get money from the unions and from membership dues. I know probably the Conservatives have more money in brown paper envelopes stuffed down the back of the radiator in King's Cross Station's men's toilets. But the huge party. Why aren't they doing what we do? Why aren't they doing like a live cast every day, where they go, ask some questions and we'll find stuff out and tell us what's going on? Why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they using Twitter to its maximum capability? Trump did. He got all the way to the presidency on that.
Do you think it's because the hierarchy, the people at the top are just too out of touch, or do you think?
Yes.
Because I imagine there are younger people who are saying, no, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, but they're not.
My experience of most people in politics is they're out of touch. They're still fighting the war of 20, 50, 70, 100 years ago in their heads. And yeah, I don't know. Politicians are weird, aren't they? They're just weird. Just weird people.
I have a problem. I overestimate them. I actually think that when Jeremy Corbyn was leader and was coming up to the general election, the one that he supported, I actually thought he was playing a 4D chess or something. I thought, look, I think he's making a mistake, but he's been in politics for over 30 years.
Long game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah, he must be playing the long game. He must be seeing something that I can't see. And
I didn't fall for that. He went to a private prep school. He got shit A levels, like pathetic A levels, that wouldn't get you in anywhere these days. And it pisses me off, Max. It pisses me off that, people like us, we have to work. We have to do well. We have to get the qualifications. We have to study to get anywhere. Whereas someone like him, born into money, grew up in a manor house, and he gets these shit A-level grades. I think he got 2 E's. I think he just turned up and wrote his name on the front. Oh, God, give him an E. He can write. And he went to North London Polytechnic, and he dropped out. And that's bad enough, but he was given a freaking bursary by a trade union to do trade union studies or whatever he did. And he went, oh, thanks for the money, pissed it up the wall, went on holiday to Jamaica for a week, came back and went, I know everything. And he went into politics, and that was his life story. So I have such low expectations of anyone that I feel got into the position that they're in just because they knew the right people. And that covers so many people in this country, well, in Britain.
Would you see the end of private schools being the real catalyst for change?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to burn them all down, but I know that's not feasible. Just turn them into state schools. That's it. Flick the switch, turn them in. The whole tax exempt status is just a wheeze. It's a massive wheeze. Set up in the 1960s against Wilson, because Wilson was like, I'm going to shut these down. And they're like, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. And so they declared themselves charities. Oh, fuck off. Eton's a charity. Really? How many kids from Bootle go to Eton on a go to those schools on those scholarships or bursaries? They're not for some refugee camp. They're not for some sink estate in an inner city. They're middle class kids whose parents probably could afford the free £30,000 a year that it costs to, the fees. But they go, hang on, you're actually a bit smarter than the average bear. So we'll put you in for the exam, and if you get it, then we don't have to pay. Yay! More money to spend on, I don't know what rich people spend the money on. Cocaine, I think.
We're very far behind on the super chat, so I'll read them out
Let's go on
quickly.
the super chat.
We have Brian. Thanks so much, Brian. What are the chances the EU will give some concessions on the Northern Ireland Protocol due to the violence, or the Tories just don't care either way? I don't see the EU compromising on the protocol, because the protocol is law. Now they can use the protocol, I think, to help move things along somewhat, but what the DUP and the unionists and Brexiteers are asking for the protocol to be thrown away, that's not going to happen. I don't see that happening. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't see that happening. I don't think the right word is concessions, because it's something written in law. There are mechanisms, I think, within the protocol to allow maybe to change some rules in regards to certain
Can I just
goods,
interrupt?
yeah.
I've just been called upstairs. I will be 2 minutes. All right. I'll be
Okay.
back, and I'll probably bring some water because I'm out of water. All right. Back in a sec.
Okay. So I don't see that happening regarding the protocol. I don't see the protocol disappearing. I think it's going to be a case that the protocol is going to be supported, and because the Conservatives have never truly said that they're going to undermine the protocol. They've actually said the opposite. They said that they're going to continue to respect the protocol, even though the DUP have been saying the opposite. Let me move on to the next super chat. Well, I'm so far behind here. Oh no, I've lost some of the ones at the top. I have Wee Scott's Dog, who says, when wealthy people relax, the Treasury don't demand tax. No means test on measure of undeserved leisure, or VAT on their mankini wax. And Julie as well. Thank you so much, Julie, for that super chat. For some reason, the stream is removing some of the super chats. Oh no. Bogdan says Disney Star Wars Episode 8 is heresy, and Ruin Johnson needs to be burnt at the stake. Duck Disney Star Wars. Yeah, well, apart from The Mandalorian is very, very good. I recommend watching The Mandalorian. Umka says down with Brexit. Wreckminster must fail. I agree. Well said. Glasgow Kid says Starmer is just a Tory in a different coloured tie.
I think he's a Tory, but he's kind of like old school Labour. Listen, guys, don't forget Clement Attlee, who famously brought about the NHS, and we love him for that. He also brought about Britain's nuclear weapon program. So it's not all great, and
swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, exactly. And when Labour tried to address the problems in the technical colleges in the 1960s, they ended up kind of giving people who didn't go to private school the worst of all possible worlds, because they helped create the system where if you went to a comprehensive school, you weren't really getting very far in life. And if you went to a private school, you were doing great. And we can see this because in the second half of the 20th century, a lot of prime ministers, including Major and Wilson and Thatcher, weren't privately educated. Since the turn of the century, Blair, Cameron, May, and Johnson, all privately educated. We've only had 55 prime ministers in this country, and 20 of them went to Eton. and another third went to either Winchester or Harrow. And so, yeah, I mean, when people say, "Oh, he's a," what do they say? They say a red tie Tory. I don't see that, but I don't think he is. I think he's central. He's a centralist, but at the same time, I don't think that he's obviously. I'm not happy with him at the moment, so I'm not going to defend him. But as far as his politics are concerned, if he was a Tory, why not just join the Tories? I don't get it. Like, why defend the defendants in the McLibel case for free in the 90s? Why did he do that? It's not something a Tory would do.
I think it's easy to call him a Tory, but I don't think he is a Tory. I just think he's he's not what people expected him to be. People thought, okay, we're getting rid of Corbyn, we're going to replace him with somebody better, and he's failed to deliver. It's not that he's a Tory, because I don't see any of his policies being aligned with the Tories. Johan has sent a super chat. Some stuff divide the parties, so they don't dare pick a side. In Sweden, we had the vote for the euro, and almost no party picked a side. This is not exactly related to this, but when do you see the UK rejoining the European Union, or at least the single market and the customs union, or the EEA or something?
I think we could rejoin the customs market, the single market and the customs union. I think we could rejoin as soon as 2026, and that will be 2 years after the next election if a progressive alliance takes power. This all starts if we convince Labour to change their stupid constitution, which says that they have to field a candidate in every single constituency in Great Britain in a general election. And because of this, it means that candidates for the Lib Dems or the Greens or Plaid Cymru that would otherwise win in their given constituencies in which Labour stand no chance of winning, they don't win and the Tory wins. We need a progressive alliance that goes in not necessarily to rejoin the EU, but so we get proportional representation, which I know it's not a panacea. It's not going to fix everything. It's a two-edged sword. There's another guy on the other side who wants proportional representation, and his name is Nigel Farage, and I fucking hate him. So I understand that it would end up giving seats in Parliament to absolute lunatics, but at least they can be in their own party and sacked off if they get too crazy. Whereas if the ERG, for instance, is within the Tory party, then you get a situation like we got in the Tory party of the tail wagging the dog. But if that happens, if we get that progressive alliance, if we change Labour's constitution, which we can do if we all join Labour and put it forward at the convention, the conference, in September or this year or next year. And then that would allow Labour to stand aside in certain constituencies and go for a coalition ticket with the Lib Dems and the Greens and who else? The SNP, if Scotland's still a part of the union by then. But they get back in, and then I reckon within 2 years, maximum will be back in the single market and the customs union. And then, I don't know, I think the argument from our side at that point will be, okay, then, so we're following all the rules of the European Union, but we don't get a say in it. How about we get a say in it? And then hopefully...
Yeah, I think it would have to be sold in that way that, look, we don't have a say. Wouldn't it be better if we had a say and then rejoin in that way? Yeah.
But I think it's a long process because it's not just a political process, Max.
No.
We need to change the hearts and minds of the nation. And there's old people who are stuck in the absolute, the past, and they'll never move, and you can't convince them of anything and forget about it. But there are a lot of young people coming online now, being able to vote, and we need them. We need them like crazy, and we need them to vote, and we need them to engage in politics. So let's make it less boring. Less boring. Let's make it less boring.
But I think rejoining the single market and the customs union could be a very good slogan or approach for resolving a lot of the problems that businesses are facing at the minute. And that's why I'd like, if there wasn't the pandemic, for someone like Starmer to actually go to the communities, the fishing communities, and say, look, here is how we can fix the problem. Yeah. You have these problems, you have this problem because of Brexit. Let's undo that. We can try and do it as soon as possible. The Tories don't want to undo it. The Tories just want to continue on as things are. I just want to read a super chat from FSM is the dog. Do you know what FSM is? I assume
Flying Spaghetti Monster. Or the Federated States of Micronesia.
Yes. It says here, Starmer is a technocrat, as boring as you know what. Boring as
he is. Yes. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Yes, you can.
Okay, yeah, he's boring. He is. He is. He's not inspiring, and he's in the worst possible position for a person like him. He is kind of like the John Major of the left in that respect. He's kind of like a dull guy. But I always found Jeremy Corbyn dull as dishwater, and I don't know what the cult was around him, but whatever. But Starmer doesn't have that cult. Starmer doesn't have fanboys and fangirls who go out of their freaking mind if you say, "Oh, he's a bit of a dick, isn't he?" No, how can you say that? Blasphemy! Jesus. But yeah, at the same time, I felt like when he got in that could be a moment where Labour stopped trying to placate dickheads, stop trying to placate racists, xenophobes, arseholes, tax avoiders, and instead did what you just suggested, Max, and educate people. Go and speak to the farmers. Go and speak to the
We're having some problems with Graham's
constituencies
connection.
and actually to engage with people. But there's such a barrier, there's such a divide between the people who vote and the people who run these parties. And until that divide is brought together, we're in a situation where half the country honestly believes that Boris Johnson is speaking for them.
A man of the people.
Yeah.
When I don't know if you saw that video, it was from Channel 4 when they went to Hartlepool. I think it was Hartlepool. I think it was last week, where they interviewed people on the beach, and the response was like, I think it was in Hartlepool where Boris had met with the workers in a factory, and it was like, he's doing his best.
He's doing his best.
He's done his best during. He had all these things on his shoulders. Like, what is going through these people's minds? They believe that Boris Johnson was the one who had Brexit on his shoulders. He had the pandemic on his shoulders. The same guy who said, you just need to take it on the chin. Or I was shaking hands with people, in the hospital while there was a pandemic raging. The guy who said, well, Brexit is done. I thought Brexit was done. How can he have it all in his shoulders still? Sorry, I'm going off a bit on a tangent there. I just want to read Richard Prosser's comment.
Hi, Richard.
I know Richard is also on your stream many times. He says, I'm convinced that our political our political system is at fault. Parliament split down the middle and little done of substance since the NHS was created. So the wheels are spinning.
We did join the EC. But yeah, I mean, Britain maintained its position as the fifth richest country in the world for a very long time, longer than it possibly should have. But it made some canny decisions in the past, and it stopped making canny decisions, and now it makes stupid emotional decisions based on who people like. That thing about Boris Johnson doing his best, it's embarrassing, isn't it? It's like a dog wiping its arse all over the couch, pulling itself along, and all over the carpet. And they're making excuses for it. That's what Tory voters are like. They're like people who have got a big smelly dog and they can't smell the dog. And you go to the house and you're like gagging, going, how can you breathe in here? And they're like, oh, this is normal. This is nice. Oh, he's very friendly. He's trying to bite your face off.
But just back about
desensitized.
Yeah, no, but about Starmer, I think Starmer would have been the right guy if Theresa May was still Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So he's no good against Boris, because people love Boris because he's a bit of a fool, because he ruffles his hair before an interview. Like even today when he was when he was giving a speech, or it was a press conference, I think, in front of Number 10, talking about how great Prince Philip was. He still looked like he hadn't slept the night before.
Yeah. He ruffles up his hair on purpose, and it's just a big fuck you to everyone, isn't it, really? And you wouldn't get away with that on the left. And this is one of the problems that the left is always going to face, that if someone on the right does something that's completely hypocritical, then, whatever. But if someone on the left went out looking like an unmade bed, or didn't bow their head deep enough at the Remembrance Parade, or, I don't know, had a sneaky can of shandy on a train, the press is all over it, like, oh my God, the moral depravity of these people. But then people on the right, I don't know, cheat on their wives who are being treated for cancer with two different women at the same time, and they're like, yeah, this is cool. and gives them taxpayers money, yeah, that's good. That's fine.
Johan has another comment. He says Norway is top dog in the ESS at the moment, will not accept the UK, so the UK would not be permitted to enter the... So that could complicate things.
Is that what is that the EEA? What's the
yeah, no, it's ES. I assume he means EEA.
Well, of course not. I mean, obviously, Norway's only 8 million people. It's a small country population-wise, and if Britain joins the EEA, they'll completely dominate. Was it Norway, Liechtenstein, Iceland? What's the other one? San Marino or something? Andorra. They're the big ones. I love it when people say, I love Europe, but I just hate the EU. And you go, well, all the countries that are any good in Europe are in the EU. What do you mean by that? Well,
no, I think it's just an excuse.
Well, do you want to be more like Belarus? Albania?
No, I think they
no
like
offense to people from those countries, obviously.
No, I think
they're developing. They're getting better.
Yeah, but I think they like the objects of Europe. They don't like the people. It's like I like French wine. I like Swiss chocolate, but I don't like the French or I don't like the Swiss. But who makes the wine and who makes the chocolate?
Also, it's obviously it's xenophobic, but like, how can you just dismiss millions of people on the grounds that you met one rude one? I mean, if I did that, I'd just hate everyone who's British. But like, there are rude people out there. There are people who aren't very nice, but I've met way more nice, lovely, friendly French people, German people, Swiss people, than I've met people who have just been horrible to me for no good reason. In fact, if I was going to make a list of people who have been horrible to me for no good reason, most of them would be British. What can I say?
But we all know the story of the football match during in no man's land during World War One. The idea that ordinary people got up and realized the enemy on the other side was just an ordinary working man or farmer or whatever, just like him. I think we need more of that.
Don't forget, during the war as well, the privates were all working class kids, and
the privately educated
officers were all the privately educated dickheads who didn't know what they were doing, put into a situation in which, and I mean, if they hadn't all been killed in that war, then perhaps they still would have been in charge in World War II. We wouldn't have won it because it would have been full of idiots rather than people who actually knew what they were doing.
We have another super chat from Glasgow Kiss. What do you want about, Graham? Tories are the party of the workers, they said.
Yes, they are. That's why they do so many things for workers' rights.
We have another super chat from Aki. Thank you so much, Aki. The biggest problem in the old democracies is the strong bipartisan system. The world is not black and white, but more grey. Great Britain and US would need at least one strong party between them.
This is the problem with the way that we look at democracies. We don't seem to realize that there are lots of different types, flavors, varieties of democracies. There's different ways of doing things. The Swiss have lots and lots of referenda. Some places have bicameral parliament that runs the place. Some places it's a presidential system, which I don't agree with, by the way. I think a presidential system is shit. Sorry, a political presidential system. There's at least two types of presidential systems. There's ones like the American system, which is just nuts, where you've got one man, it's invariably a man, who is head of the government, state, armed services, CIA, FBI, Coast Guard, you name it. It's too much power to give one human being, one little squishy human being. That just makes no sense to me. What I prefer is the German system or the Indian system, where you have a president, but they have no real political power except in an emergency. And that's something that I will defend the monarchy. I'm going to piss off everyone watching this now. I'll defend the monarchy about in this country, because there hasn't been an overrule of any parliamentary bill that's come before the monarch for over 200 years, 300 years. Yeah, the last one was 1708, the Scottish Militia Act. Someone might want to check that out. So 300 years, they haven't overruled it, but they can in case of an emergency. And also in America, these people in the army, and don't forget, they've got the largest army in the world. The president's the commander in chief. Are you kidding me? Or some politician who's never been in the military, never been in combat, gets to be leading the army. I mean,
On a
what?
whim.
It's like getting someone who is it some drunk from the pub to come and conduct the London Philharmonic, and you're like, what? They're not a musician. They're drunk. Why? But yeah, that's the system they got there.
Although the response from the Americans would be that, well, if you take somebody who doesn't have a background or whatever, they would surround themselves with experts to
yes.
But yeah, although that didn't work out very well the last time.
No, but in the UK, the military swear allegiance to the monarch. So if Priti Patel, which I'm sure she will do one day, if she's allowed to, orders British troops to fire on unarmed women and children, they can legally say no. Whereas in America, if the president gives an order to fire on unarmed women and children, they can't legally say no.
Well, I don't know if that's true. There is the Geneva Convention that they can't break.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So, but I don't.
Okay,
I don't
well,
know
maybe women and children is a bad example, but generally speaking,
we have another. And about the. Sorry, and I thought there was another super chat. No, I thought there was, one moment. Just my screen keeps jumping, so it's sometimes difficult. No, there was a question I want to ask you, Graham, about. No, for example, yes, it was when I remember the Brexit vote, not the Brexit vote, but there was a bill going through Parliament, about the Brexit bill going through Parliament. And at the time, I remember thinking about how this is going to destroy the Union. How could the Queen sit there and not intervene? Because she allegedly is the defender of the Union. And she would see Brexit as destroying the Union. Either whether she agreed with Brexit or not about leaving the European Union. But she would have to understand that she would have been advised, yes, this is going to cause the breakup of the Union. How could she not? I know from a political point of view, she's not supposed to intervene, but is she not supposed to defend the Union?
No, because the glorious revolution of 1688, when the Dutch invaded Britain and took over, William of Orange, anyone remember him? King Billy. He wasn't British, From that moment on, essentially the monarch has just been a figurehead, and Britain was a different country then. I mean, the idea that she could intervene and what that would do, I think they're in a very precarious position. The monarchy, I think they're on the last legs, to be honest with you. And I don't know if you saw the interview with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, but they made it quite clear that the monarchy is terrified of the tabloid press. And if they're terrified of the tabloid press, how terrified must they be of the government, of whoever's in charge? Because at the end of the day, the government could just make a bill and get rid of them. We don't have a constitution in this country. Not a written one. So if the government make a law, it's quite hard, unless it breaks international law, to say that's an unlawful law.
Yeah, but if it came to the monarchy, it wouldn't be breaking any international law. No, it just sort of was weird for me how she just sat on the side. If you look at The Crown, for example, the TV show The Crown, you see how she was. We need to. I meet with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is my advisor. He's going to tell us what we need to do during the war or during this particular crisis. Brexit was a crisis. And I just thought what was the conversation she was having with Boris Johnson? Obviously, she had to ask him, is this going to damage the Union? And Boris Johnson could either lie and say, no, it's not.
He probably lied.
or he could tell the truth and say, yes, it is. But you can do nothing about it.
But you're also assuming that the Queen is smart, and I think the big smart thing that she does is she keeps a gob shut and doesn't opine on politics. But don't forget, she didn't go to school.
Yeah.
Didn't really learn anything. I mean, I don't know. And also at the time she was in a late 80s, early 90s. When I'm that old, I'll be doolally. I'll be on the bus wearing a tea cozy on my head. Singing Danny Boy or something. I don't know. I've got no intention of ruling, being the sovereign ruler of 50 countries around the world. It's kind of crazy. I don't know. I think that the monarchy might have to pack in after Lizzie goes. I don't see any public appetite for Prince Charles being king and being on all our money. I've got no intention of having lots of pictures of Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles in my wallet. What? That doesn't fill me with joy.
Or maybe it could skip. It could skip a generation, though. No?
I've got loads of pictures of Prince Charles, in my pocket next to me cock. Yeah. That's just what I wanted for Christmas. I don't know. I think it should skip a generation. If they want to try and keep it going. Maybe they say suck it off. From what Harry said, saying they feel trapped. And he said, I'm all right. I got out, but my brother and my dad aren't so lucky. Just sack it off. They're rich people. Just enjoy their money. Do that thing that Scrooge McDuck does where he dives into his coin, swims about.
Extremely unhygienic. Umka says monarchy is crap. Sorry. Not needed today. Fix your electoral system. Get rid of first past the post and peers. Stop praising your monarchy and aristocracy. Traditions.
I think it's not praise. It's the deference. It's this British stupid deference that we have. But if I had one wish, one political wish, I don't think it would be to get rid of the monarchy, because I'd probably want either PR or get rid of the fucking House of Lords. House of Lords is ridiculous. They're appointing people for life to be lawmakers who've got no qualifications whatsoever, apart from their mate at the Tory party.
Or donations.
It's a disgrace. And now there's people from the Lords being brought into cabinet, like Lord Frost. No one's elected that fucker, right? No one voted for him. And if he does a terrible job, which he's been doing so far, we can't elect him out of office. We can't throw him out at the next election.
What is the Brexiteer response to that?
You don't like it? Fuck off to the EU. And then they go back to shagging their sister or whatever Brexiteers do. Shagging the flag. Oh, you sexy bitch. Come here, Union Jackie. Yeah.
Oh, guys. So we're on. Well, we're well over the 2 hours almost 2 hours for the live stream. So
Woo!
Do you want to cut it off here, or do you want to continue for a bit more, Graham?
I'm happy to continue.
Okay.
Catherine's gone to bed. She's just saying good night.
To hell with this. I'm going to bed.
I'm not getting any tonight, so have a continue.
Do you have a flag? No.
I've got an EU flag. It's just not as sexy. It doesn't do it for me. Not like a Union Jack.
So we can have a look at some of the chat comments.
Shagging their pit bulls. Graham Hughes, not get rid of first past. Well, I said that. I mean, bring in PR, that would get rid of first past the post. What would you do, Max, if you had to? If you had one wish to change the British political system, what would that wish be?
End private schools.
But that'll take 20 years to work through.
No,
the system.
I would say PR. I know it's not perfect, but it would be the best. Yeah. Like first past the post has, but I don't see first past the post lasting much longer. Because what you're going to have is another Tory majority, and then maybe at that stage. But actually, a question I want to ask you from before was, who's stopping? So remember we were saying before about in the Labour Party there is the constitution that needs to be changed. We need to join it to change it. Who is actually resistant to change in the Labour Party? The momentum people?
No, well, yeah. I mean, I don't know why Labour doesn't want to get rid of first past the post. I don't know why, because it doesn't benefit them. In the last 100 years, they've only been in power for like a third of that time. whereas the Tories have been in power for 2/3 of that time because of first past the post. And it's infinitely frustrating. It's like the Democrats not just grabbing the bull by the horns now and declaring statehood for DC and for Puerto Rico. That would give them 4 more frickin' senators. And then this Joe Manchin creep who keeps holding up all of the policies they want to do, he can go to hell. He can vote with the Republicans. It won't matter because they'll still have a majority. But why they won't just go for it, it's just endlessly frustrating. And you know damn well, if it was on the other side, the Tories would just go for it.
Yeah.
If it was something that would benefit them. Look at what the Republicans are doing about stopping people from voting. I mean, these restrictive measures. They're saying they're going to make it illegal to give out water to people queuing up to vote. I mean, what goes through people's heads? But then in the UK, we're redrawing all the boundaries. The Tories are doing everything in their power to get rid of Scotland so that they're in power for the next 100 years because England is a conservative country. And no one's stopping them. I don't know. No one's bringing this up. We are. You are.
We have QA Library who says that he bets £5 that first past the polls will be here in 100 years' time. I hope you're wrong.
Tell me now. Well, Britain won't be here in 100 years' time. I don't think Britain's going to be here in 10 years' time.
Wangland?
Wangland. The People's Republic of Wangland. There is a place. There is a place in Germany called Wangerland. Someone from Wangland's going to write in now. Yes, it's called Wangerland. But yeah, that's what we're going to have.
Well,
and it's in, and we don't know what's going to happen going down that route. Are we going to be kicked out of NATO? We'll be out of the G7.
Yeah.
We could see ourselves lose the seat in the permanent seat on the UN Security Council.
It's not so permanent after all.
Well, it's the UK. As if we're not the UK anymore. What happens? Does it go to Scotland? It's a bit unfair that they don't get a say anymore. Do we have an extra seat? It's like I don't think the other countries are going to do us any favors because they're China and Russia who hate us, and then France and America who we've just done our best over the last few years to piss off. Well, not America under Trump, but now America under Biden, who very much associates with his Irish ancestry, quite rightly.
Vincent has sent a super chat, just hoping that this whole vaccine thing does not provide cover for the Tories. It is actually providing a lot of cover for the Tories. It has actually stopped a lot. It has minimized a great deal of damage that Brexit would have caused.
Brexit is causing.
It is causing. Yes.
Wankland. Umka's there. Graham talks like Rabsy Nesbitt. Thanks, Umka. Rabsy Nesbitt's from Glasgow. I'm from Liverpool. They're two completely different places. They're two different countries.
Well, I imagine Rasby Nesbitt, the actor, probably speaks with like Jacob Rees-Mogg or something. Or I've often speculated when Jacob Rees-Mogg goes home, when he closes the doors and Nanny goes away, how does he actually speak? Does he speak like with a Cockney accent or something? All right.
If Jacob Rees-Mogg was born in a city estate, rather than a country estate, he would be a drug dealer. He would knock old ladies over the head and steal their handbags. He's that type of person. Pure sociopath.
Well, reciting some Latin to them.
Lee Corns looked up Wangerland. He's looked up Wangerland on Google Maps. It looks like the Bell End. Perfect for the gammon. Oh, Max, did you see this yesterday with Andrew Neil saying
yes.
Gammon was a racist? Racist.
You're gonna have to take it back, Graham. You're gonna have to take it down now. You can't be using the G word anymore.
I did. Did you ever see the website that I made last month called A Modest Proposal?
Yeah. Yes.
You see this? So for those of you who don't know, I'll give you the link now. But in the 1720s, I think, Jonathan Swift, who was a very famous satirist, Irish writer who wrote Gulliver's Travels, which is still really funny. He wrote a thing called A Modest Proposal. and it was proposing that the Irish eat their own children in order to stay alive. And it caused a huge sensation at the time because some people didn't know whether to take it seriously or not. And obviously it was a work of satire. So I've rewritten it for the modern age, although it does look old fashioned. And basically it suggests that since we've got these school kids who we can't afford to feed for some reason, even though we're increasing our nuclear budget by 44%. But yeah, so we can't feed them. So, and then we've got all these old gammon people who are dying. So basically feed the gammon to the starving children. Happy days. So yeah, check it out. A modestproposal.uk. Send it to your nan. She'll love it.
Especially if she voted for Brexit. Phil has sent another super chat. We have a number of Labour MPs who have been in the seats for years might oppose PR, i.e. Ian Lavery. They'd potentially be vulnerable. Selfish reasons. Yeah, I think that's one of the problems.
That's true. Yeah.
If you're in a safe seat, you don't want first past the post going away because you benefit from it.
You had to do some freaking work then, wouldn't you? Had to go and meet your voters. I don't understand why, especially in this day and age, these politicians can't do Zoom chats once a week. You know, they have surgeries. Why not have a Zoom chat and do it like anyone can join in the constituency, and everyone has a login, so you know that they're actually in your constituency. You can't just turn up to someone's thing if you don't live there. And you can send you can send questions in. If someone acts like a dick, they can get barred from it. You know, there's no obligation to put up with trolls, and you get to have an almost a one-to-one with the people in charge of the country.
When I lived in Dublin, I remember there was a politician. I didn't agree with his politics, but every Saturday he had a little caravan at the end of the road, and you could go and meet with him and ask him questions and interact with him, and he would answer. And it was, I think, it was actually quite a good idea.
Yeah, this is a fantastic idea. I mean, things have changed now because of COVID, but I would have liked to have seen town hall talks coming back. We've got all these churches that no one's using unless they want to get the kids into a posh school, or they're getting married. So you've got all these buildings around the country that aren't being used throughout the week. Every Thursday, you have a town meeting and you have councillors, you have an MP or a couple of MPs, and people say, listen, we need to do something about the litter. We need to do something about the kids' park. We need to do something about the potholes. And you actually have that two-way conversation instead of us signing petitions which are ignored or marching which is just ignored, and we can get direct answers.
But I'm afraid that they don't want to do that because they would have to give direct answers. You know, and we could actually, you know, clip video. People could make videos out of it, and they could go viral. And like, oh, why did the politician say this? So, but it's necessary. That's what they're paid for. That's their job, is to answer the questions to the public. But the idea, I think the whole idea of a safe seat needs to go, whether it's Labour, whether it's Lib Dems, whether it's Conservatives.
Yeah, agree with that.
It serves no purpose. Johan sent another super chat. If the UK breaks up, who gets the nukes?
Well, who has the nukes? Well, Scotland, because they're in Faslane, aren't they? In Scotland. How freaking pointless. We're spending all this money on bloody nuclear weapons that we can never use. We're part of NATO. So if we do get invaded, the Americans can lob a load of nukes at anyone. They've got over 1,000 of them. I mean,
yeah.
Sorry, 10,000? How many nukes has America got? It's like 10,000, isn't it? Something crazy. And they still use, do you remember the old floppy disks from the 1980s that were like 5.25 inches? They still use those floppy disks for the launch codes,
which is actually a good idea because
it can't be hacked into.
Exactly.
Games with Matthew Broderick, and he went, "We're not falling for that."
But they are so backward that it's difficult to hack into them, and it's impossible actually. But it's also the other side is they cost an absolute fortune because nobody makes them anymore, even though the software still has to be maintained. The increase in nuclear weapons budget is possibly the most obscene waste of money imaginable. It's just a willy wave.
It is, Andy. You're right. Put that into NHS nurses' pay. Yeah.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah.
It's frustrating because like we've got 10 years to save this planet. If we don't do something about the environment in the next 10 years, like not in 10 years time, but throughout the next 10 years, if we aren't looking at this like a military operation, a war against climate change, which is the way we've got to start thinking about it, we're destroying the future for our children and their children. And for the next 1,000 years, 10,000 years of human civilization, humans will still be here. Yes. The planet will survive. Yes, I know this. But the suffering that people are going to have to go through, Bangladesh, as we were talking about last night in News of the World, a lot of it's like either sea level, below sea level, or the maximum 10 meters above sea level. If sea levels rise a meter, you're going to lose a third of Bangladesh. It's one of the most densely populated countries in the world. It's got 160 odd million people living there, and they're almost completely surrounded by India or the ocean. Where are they going to go? And this is going to create knock-on effects all around the world, destabilization. And the fact that we are pissing around doing daft shit like Brexit or spending money on nuclear weapons we can never use is so frustrating. It's like, and I think this is going back, I don't want to harp about Corbyn, but it was one of those things, it was just, I wanted him to do something about Brexit, the thing in front of him. And he kept on going off on things like that just didn't matter. Well, they did, but it wasn't the most important thing right there and then. He just, yeah.
I know.
Frustrating. That's the way I describe the situation at the moment. It's just frustrating. But I am very, very encouraged by Joe Biden's attitude. I think he's been brilliant. He's brought in the $2 trillion stimulus package against COVID. He's now brought in a $2 trillion infrastructure package, which was so sorely needed. Anyone who's driven in America in the last 20 years, oh my God, like their roads are falling apart. You drive in New York, in Manhattan, and the main road's fine. You turn off down one of those side streets. You know, the ones where they have the high-speed car chases and they hit the cardboard boxes and that. No way. No way. They have potholes I haven't seen since I was last in Cameroon. And I'm like, how is this the richest country in the world? And yet the infrastructure's falling apart. Bridges, tunnels, roads, levees, as we saw in New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina hit. It's fallen apart, and he's going for it. He's also put John Kerry in charge of his climate change agenda, which is fantastic. And with the EU's support, America and the EU could save the world with enough gumption. So fingers crossed that happens, but I don't think Britain's going to join in.
We have another super chat from Glasgow Kiss. Thank you so much, Glasgow Kiss. 100 for the hell of it. Scott's Dog as well. Thanks, Scott's Dog. Is Glasgow getting high? A one-man UBI. He's generous and doesn't fuss. A better man than I. He definitely is. No, better man than either of us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Glasgow.
Thank you very much, Glasgow. I think we can maybe call it a night at this stage. We've been on for a while.
Great chats in here.
Great chat, yeah, really good.
You got high-speed rail needs in the USA. Yep, absolutely. Jim Bob Robob's making a good point of the $2 trillion over 10 years, not enough. Yeah, I mean, but it's more than what Trump was doing, which was nothing.
He was cutting, but he was giving money to the people who didn't need money in the first place.
Yeah, the rich. Andy McAvoy says Glasgow Kiss is getting a call from his bank manager tomorrow.
What the F are you doing?
Well, I hope you enjoyed this bumper show.
Yes.
Did you enjoy this, Max?
I did very much. I hope to do it again with you as soon as possible, as soon as you're free again. And, guys, remember, we're up to over 700 viewers tonight, so I hope you'll all check out all of Graham's shows during the week. Because he had
the reality shows.
All the reality shows. So I bid you all a really good night, guys. So I wish everyone a wonderful weekend, and I see you all. Today is Friday. Yeah, sorry. Sometimes I get confused. So I wish everyone a good weekend, and I'll see you all next Tuesday at same bat time, same bat channel 9:30 Greenwich Mean Time.